Every time. Hello, welcome to the Lights Out Book Club for September. I almost was like, is it October? But it's almost October. I'm here with my friends Hannah and Gwen, and I'm really excited that you all are here as co-hosts. Thank you so much. We read Lady Killer this month, and
I have the book.
Yes, yay! Hannah, do you have the physical book, or did you?
No, I listened to the audio for it.
Well, I did both. I did hybrid reading, so I did have the physical, but I also listened. So
I kind of wanted to do it that way, but then I just decided I need to stop buying books. It's like a literal problem for me this year. So I was like, I need to read my shelves.
yeah.
So I decided I'm not going to buy it, but I wanted to because it's also a really satisfying cover. It's
really pretty.
So yeah, let me know in the comments if you read it. I'm just going to make sure it's up and running on YouTube because sometimes I have experienced StreamYard not showing comments. Have you all had that experience?
I have.
I've not had that happen, but that sounds awful.
Yeah, and I know it's like a kind of an earlier time, but still, I'm just going to keep my phone up just in case that happens because it has happened. And I feel bad because I like completely miss all the comments and I'm like, oh no.
I've also had the problem where you go back to watch someone's live show and the live chat doesn't happen. So then you're like, so do I just comment in the comments or it's like awkward, So
yeah, it's very strange. So it doesn't look like anything's on there, but I'm going to wait. So
okay.
whenever anyone pops in, share if you read the book. If not, I always start with non-spoiler thoughts with my guests. So we're not going to spoil anything. Don't worry. But before we go into what the book's about, would you all like to introduce yourselves, share your channels, and all that fun stuff? Hannah, do you want to?
Hannah. I'm Hannah. My channel is Hannah's Recent Reads. I have been reading more thrillers lately, but that's not typically my genre. So I like to read one every here and there as like a little palate cleanser kind of thing. And they're fun for me. So typically I enjoy them because I'm not like immersed in the thriller genre. Yes. So, but yeah, I'm really excited to discuss the book.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Gwen. My channel is Gwendolyn Kensinger, and I do read a lot of thrillers, but I feel like in the last 2 years, I've been reading more like literary fiction, general fiction, and I do read other genres too, but my two favorites are romance and thrillers. So this was just like right in my wheelhouse. I loved it.
Yay. Glad to have you. Well, thank you so much for being here. So, hello, welcome. I wanted to share the synopsis of this book, but we were all chatting beforehand and the synopsis gives like a lot away. So I just wanted to pull up Goodreads and read the first sentence, literally, that is on the description. So it says, when an heiress goes missing, her best friend races to unravel the secrets behind her disappearance using clues left behind in an explosive manuscript. So that is all I think you need to know going into this book, because unfortunately it gives away so much in the synopsis. Like that really sucks. Books do that, and I don't think it's the author. It's probably the publisher.
Yeah. I think with thriller books in general, the more blind I can go in, the better. I usually do read like that first little tagline, but I mean, I remember with Who is Maud Dixon, I read the full synopsis and I was like, oh, did I already read the book now? Like it was so disappointing. So like ever since then, I was like, I'm just reading the tagline.
Yeah, I like that. I try to do that as much as possible. And the only reason why I went back and read the synopsis is because I was really unsure in the, like, I think it was the halfway point. I was reading on audio, but I still felt like I wasn't sure what was going on.
Yeah.
And too. So I was like,
yeah, that's the only time I'll do it too. I'll be like, okay, I'm really confused what's going on or what's supposed to be happening.
Yeah. So I was like, I need to check because I am not sure. Hi, Deb. Did you read the book? I think I saw your post about the book. So I think you did, but let me know.
Ooh.
Did you all read physically, audio? How did you all read this book?
I did the hybrid reading. So I had the physical because, I mean, the book cover is gorgeous. I love this color and I love like summary book covers anyway. So I just wanted it. And I did listen to the audiobook. That's how I do the majority of my reading.
Yeah, that's my favorite way, I think, overall to read.
Yeah.
but I just don't always have like both on me.
Yes.
But that is probably my preferred overall way. There's exceptions. Sometimes I feel like horror books I prefer reading physically, because sometimes the voices that are done in horror books sound a little campy.
Yes.
Out of it, but like with thrillers, usually it's always good to hybrid.
Yeah.
What about you?
I did the audio. I just listened to it on Spotify.
Oh,
But I also really like the cover. Like this color blue is just so stunning. I think it's a well done cover. But yeah, I typically don't buy thrillers if I can help it, because to me they're like a one and done. Like I'm never gonna reread it, because like once I know the twist, it's usually like takes the fun out of it if I try to go back and reread it. So that's why I just listened for free on Spotify.
Yeah,
Nice.
I feel the same way, but I did reread Pretty Girls, and I really want to reread a couple other thrillers that I read a couple years ago, because they were
some that I would reread, because there's some like really, really good ones. Like the storytelling of it is really good too.
Right. Yeah.
But for the one thing I will say about the audio is it does have 2 narrators, and so I like that when it has multiple narrators that can kind of help you, especially with a dual POV book. So it can kind of help you. You don't necessarily need that physical book, but especially for me, when there's only one narrator, I definitely have to have the physical, because I'm like, sometimes they don't change up their voice enough, you know? So I liked that this one had 2 narrators.
Yeah, I agree. And in the book, did it show clearly when it was going to different perspectives, like the manuscript?
It did. It did. I'll try to. So it would say like Abby, chapter 8, and then it would say like manuscript or whatever from the other perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice, because that was the only thing while I was reading, even though I heard
Jean's manuscript.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
The font was the same. I wish they would have done like maybe italics or something like that to really make you feel like it was, but it was fine. It was labeled.
Yeah, I really love, I'm like so into when they make it look like a different book, and it's like a book in a book.
Yeah.
I agree. I audioed it mostly. Yeah, I like the audiobook. I just used an Audible credit because I had a couple sitting around, and it was not available on Scribd, or I guess Everand now.
Yeah.
I always have to remind myself what the heck it's called. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been too many years of saying Scribd.
I still call it Scribd.
Yeah. Everybody knows.
Everand,
Yeah.
Everyone knows. It went fairly well since the audio kept my attention waiting in line at the DMV.
Hey, perfect book for the DMV.
Hey, that's actually such a good point, because you don't have to focus too.
That's a life hack.
Yeah.
Take an audiobook to the DMV.
And it's good because you get to black out all the noise. So it's like, only I would want like my huge noise canceling headphones.
Yes.
Which I could do.
It's a vibe.
I've done that at the grocery store before, and people looked at me a little weird, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to read my book and like
live my life.
Yeah, like
my own lane here. Just let me do my thing.
Also, I need to put up that this is the non-spoiler section.
Okay.
There, I knew I was forgetting something. I love how the blue blends it. This is like, guys, I think, did you all point out the blues? Like how satisfying the blues were? Because they are. I don't know.
Even like on your graphic for the Lights Out Book Club, you had the like exact blue, and I was like, it's so stunning.
It's so funny because I'm usually not specifically drawn to blues, but this blue is so good. It just really me. So I wrote out some questions, and I kind of like to follow, general things about each book that we all read together. I adjust them per book, but I wanted to ask you all, first of all, what did you like about the book and what did you dislike? And this has to be non-spoiler for now, and then we can move in to spoilers. But
okay. I'll say the things that I really liked about it was the atmosphere and the setting. Yeah. That was like the main thing that I really liked. I also really liked Gia's manuscript chapters.
Okay.
I usually do not. I'm kind of an oddball in the booktube community. I do not like books within books usually. Yeah. There are very few books that have that trope that I end up liking. But there was something about this that I just really enjoyed. What I did not like is we have 2 POVs, and I felt like they were imbalanced. I felt like we got more of Gia's manuscript, which was great for me because I loved that. But I feel like in Abby's POV, I was like, she was behind the times. I already knew what was going on. I was like, girl, let's catch up. So I felt like I was kind of like, okay, girl, come on. You got to get to where I am. And the ending, which we'll get to, but.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said, because in the description, it does mention that there's a manuscript that they find. But when you're starting the book, you don't get, I guess you do realize maybe that there are different time frames, but I didn't necessarily think too hard on that. I was just like, oh, there's this perspective and this perspective. And so once you realize that it was later, picked up the manuscript and that the timelines don't match, it was kind of strange. It was a little bit it threw me off a little bit.
Yeah.
That actually goes into a later question too that I should ask you guys now. You like the manuscript part better?
I did like the manuscript part better.
Same.
What about you, Hannah? Okay.
I found Gia's, like, her perspective, or like her manuscript was more interesting to me. Like, there was more happening. And like from Abby's perspective, I was like, I don't care. Go back to Gia. Like, I don't care what you're doing. Like, because Gia's was like, things were happening.
Yeah. And the action and the plot.
Like, I'm going on a trip to meet my best friend and we had a falling out, but like, let's go meet and see the Northern Lights.
And I'm not going to tell you anything about any of that. I'm just going to tell you about that I'm going to do this. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So I definitely like the manuscripts better also.
I agree as well. I thought it was really in balance when we got thrown back to Abby, who is, I guess, the main character, but it's weird because I feel like
it didn't feel like she was the main character. Every time I went back to her perspective, it was like, wait, okay, let me readjust where this is all happening.
Right, exactly. So I was way more interested in the manuscript. And like you said, Gwen, I really liked the atmosphere. That was probably what I liked the most. And when we're first introduced to it and learning about Gia from her perspective and her manuscript, I was like, ooh, this is juicy. Like, what's going on?
And like the house where she was staying and stuff like that, like her father's estate or whatever.
Like her like talking and like just like the way that she lived her life. I was like, girl, you are a TV show right now. Like, what?
I loved it. It was like rich people drama.
Yeah.
But actually she's not rich. So
I know. That was
rich people drama, being poor, having to sell your estate of your father so you have money again, rich.
Well, and like she's doing this estate and it's like a sale for like $50 million. So she's like, got all like she still acts like a rich heiress. So it was like, okay, if I had an estate for $50 million that I could sell, obviously I'd probably be loaning money out and taking yacht trips and stuff like that. But
I know. There was a huge tonal shift, I felt like halfway through the book. So I like that. I'm trying to think in the beginning. I think I was intrigued. So without spoiling anything, there is a situation in their past that's alluded to from the very beginning. And maybe it's not quite as it seems. And so I was super interested in the beginning and I thought we would get more flashbacks to that or something.
Same.
And so I was like interested. I was on a walk. I was like, ooh, like what's happening? I was like looking around and then like I kind of lost a little bit of that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's because it wasn't as explosive as it could have been. Like you're waiting for this bomb to drop, like, OMG, these two best friends that have basically like grown up together and like they're this close. Like what could have torn them apart? And then you're like, oh, okay.
And you learn it fairly early on. At least you kind of get the idea. Like and I was like, is this because I read a lot of thrillers or is it just obvious?
Right? That's what I always wonder. I'm like, is it because I've kind of read this before or
like because Hannah, you don't read as many thrillers. Like it's your palate cleanser. What was your perspective on did you think this was predictable?
Yeah, I found it like I didn't predict every single thing, and there were some things that I predicted that didn't come to be, but I predicted the stuff about their past and like how it all came to light and stuff. I was like, that was it supposed to be surprising?
I know, that's
because I just felt like it was like there, like, there was no like suspense built up for like what happened. It was just like, here, this is what happened.
Yeah. And then you're just kind of like, oh, okay, moving on.
I know. Yeah. It was Gia did say early on she was writing an elevated journal.
Yeah.
So I knew, but I was surprised the manuscript discovery came so late.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like how it's like Gia had said, like, oh, I want to try my hand at writing fiction, but she had written a memoir before. So it was like you were reading her manuscript. So in your head, it's like unreliable narrative. Like, is this all true? Or did she?
Right. Because she's saying it's fiction, but, and you're like, but you're writing it like this journal. So and journals are usually nonfiction.
Right. And she said, like, it's more like a journal at this point. So, like, we're reading it thinking like, okay, this is like actually what happened. But then also at the same time, like, could it be not real? So it was like, I did like that aspect of like, is it or is it not? Like, you don't really know.
Did you say you liked it or you didn't?
I did like that because it was like, it at least left like, it left me guessing things like, could she be lying about this? Or maybe this happened.
Right. Yeah. Is this true or is this not true? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know why in the beginning I was just like believing everything. I was like, okay.
I mean, I did too.
I did too.
Like I wasn't thinking about that. And then like you sort of realize it's a bit of an unreliable narrator. You're not quite sure. And then I was like, oh, okay. I get that. I generally don't actually like that in thrillers too much. It has to be
unreliable narrator. I think if I know I'm reading an unreliable narrator, I like it better than not knowing if it's an unreliable, because then I start to question my own sanity a little bit. You're like, but if I know, like, this person is unhinged, I can't believe a word they're saying, I'm like, let's go.
Right. And sometimes it can be really frustrating because you're like, so all of that happened was just a dream or something like that. And but I like it when it's done where it's kind of like, I'm already suspicious of if you're telling me the truth.
Yeah.
But I was with you, Sev. I 100% was like, I'm just taking all this to be exactly what happened.
Same.
I was like, just tell me the story. I'm
exactly.
She's still rich by most of
of course.
It's funny how she was like, I'm so poor. And it was like
loaning out like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, I can't keep doing this. I was like,
didn't she?
Doing it.
Why are you poor? Because you're lending out hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Literally. She was like, this is the first time I've seen my bank at $900,000.
I'm like, I will never see the day.
Terrifying.
I know. I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah, it was also interesting because the main character was basically, her whole life was helped by this family in a way because they paid for her schooling. They employed her mom, like all of this stuff. So that was interesting to me. And I kind of wanted more of the childhood stuff. I think
they could have done some flashbacks. Yeah.
I'm a sucker for flashbacks. I usually like them. They're usually my favorite part of the book. Not always, but in stories like this, they usually are. Yeah. What did you all think about the writing style? And did you realize this was a debut?
Well, I did know it was a debut because I kind of picked the book.
Yes.
So I did know it was a debut, but it didn't feel like a debut, honestly. Right. Now, is it top of the line, best new debut ever? No, this felt like a very approachable, easy to read thriller, a great like poolside read. If you don't read a lot of thrillers, like that sort of thing, there wasn't anything like spectacular about it. It wasn't flowery writing. It was just kind of, but I did like the dual POV and I thought it read fast because I was always intrigued. So the suspense was definitely there for me. And I would read from the author again. So
okay. Well, that's good to know. I was going to ask that too, if you all would be interested. I'm assuming the author's going to put out more books because I think this is doing well. So it's traditionally published. What about you, Hannah?
I didn't mind the writing style at all, just like the pacing of it and stuff, like more like just choices that were made. I think that I would have preferred to have been done differently. But like I also didn't think I wouldn't have read this and been like, clearly it's a debut.
Right.
But like, it has its issues.
I didn't feel like it read like a debut either. It felt I don't know the word. Like it felt like from an author who's written things. So it didn't feel like a debut. I don't know if I would be interested to read more from this author because I haven't shared my rating yet. I feel like you all can tell, I was not a big fan. I think part of it is what Gwen is saying is like, I've read so many thrillers that it's a good beginner thriller.
Yeah.
but I've just read this story. It feels just very familiar. And it's funny.
Well, I think that gave me the opposite effect than it did for you, Sav, because one of the things that's highly brought up in the novel again and again is The Talented Mr. Ripley by Patricia. So that is one of my top 5 all-time favorite movies ever.
Ooh, okay.
I've never read the book,
Yeah.
but I love that movie with my heart and soul. The casting is great. It's just great.
Yeah.
And so I liked that feeling of in that book. And so even though I know her next novel wouldn't be the same thing, even though my rating will also reflect some of what you're getting at and stuff, I still feel like I was drawn to it a little bit because of that connection.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I've never seen it or read it. I need to. I'm so sorry. I've
definitely heard of it, but when they were mentioning it, I was like, it kind of just went like smooth brain slid right off. I had no idea.
You have to watch the movie. You have to watch the movie.
Is it on a streaming?
Let me look it up for you. Let me the
homework. She will.
I literally want to rewatch it right now because
no, are there a lot of parallels in it?
I wouldn't say a lot, but we'll get to it in a little bit.
Because I noticed, doesn't it open up with a quote? Isn't that a quote from? Okay. Because I did notice that, and it kind of stuck out to me because I was like, I know I've heard this, this is a famous book and movie, right? It's pretty famous. I haven't seen it, but I was like, oh, that's interesting. Usually I wouldn't say usually, but oftentimes I don't recognize where the quotes come from. They're just kind of random. Yeah. So I was like, that stood out to me. So yeah, whenever you find it, let us know because maybe I have the streaming site.
Well, it says YouTube Primetime subscription, Hulu Premium subscription, Amazon Prime maybe has it, Paramount Plus might have it.
Well,
Apple TV $3.99, but yeah. I think it's worth if you want to rent it $3.99. Sometimes they have that cheap price or whatever. I think it's worth it, and it's a pretty longer movie. How long?
It's over 2 hours.
Yeah, it's 2 hours and 19 minutes. But
it's $19.99.
Yes, Matt Damon, Jude Law, Gwyneth Paltrow, Kate Blanchett, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Jack Davenport. The cast is amazing. It is worth it.
This looks really good.
One of my top 5 favorite movies of all time.
I'm gonna watch this. Ooh, the aesthetic looks so good. It's beachy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like the lady killer because she's on a beach all the time.
Yeah. I didn't know it was those vibes. I had no idea the vibes. I just knew it was a thriller. So
yeah. As soon as I opened it up and it was The Talented Miss Ripley, I was like, let's go.
You're like, sign me up.
Yes.
Did you enjoy the romance? I'm so curious what you all thought of that. There was a romantic element in this.
Yes. What did you think about that, Hannah?
I didn't like it. I'll just spoil my rating right now. I liked very little about the book.
Yeah.
I was it wasn't painful to get through because I kept wanting to have something happen. But yeah, the romance I was suspicious of.
Yeah.
It was too perfect almost. Childhood. They had a fling but didn't ever get together, and then so then I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah. I don't think it needed a romance at all. Just because you're a book doesn't mean you have to have romance in you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I feel like sometimes maybe authors feel that need to do that. Maybe that's a debut choice. Let me throw this in there too type thing, just in case this is the part that people like. So it didn't need the romance, but I didn't mind the romance either. But that's also because I like reading romance books. But I don't think it was also fully fleshed out either. But I did like Ben's character because I feel like of all the characters in the book, he was the most normal, if that makes sense. Level-headed, kind of reliable person. So I mean, did I like it?
I was always suspicious of him too.
But I didn't
I was like, he's so normal. Something's wrong with him.
I don't know why I wasn't that suspicious. I don't know why. I was just kind of He's the romantic interest. Usually that would make me suspicious in a thriller, but not really in this one. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was fine with it. I thought it was kind of unnecessary. And like you said, it wasn't fleshed out that
It
much.
could have just been like platonic, like, oh, we grew up together kind of thing, and now we're working together to like, figure out what's going on, and it would not have affected the story at all.
Right.
We were just friends.
Agree.
Kind of felt like there's too much going on. Okay. It's too much, you know? Do you all want to share your ratings now?
Yeah. Gwen, you go first.
Because it's all downhill after this.
Yeah. You're going to have the highest rating probably.
So I gave it 3 stars, and 3 stars to me means that I enjoyed the book. A lot of people, think that means like it's a bad rating and like it was okay. It doesn't mean it was okay. It means it was a step above okay for me. So I liked it. There were things that I liked, things that I didn't. 3 stars.
I'm glad you liked it. I always want people to like book club books. I'm like, I hope everybody likes it. So okay, well that's good. What about you?
All right. What about you, ladies?
I gave it 2 stars.
Okay, but that's not a 1.
Big, like it probably could have been like a 3-star, like it was fine without the ending. The ending really bothered me, and I left it really frustrated.
Yeah, we're gonna go into spoilers in a second. We can talk about the ending and lots of stuff. I don't know. A 2-star, but like I'm feeling really mean right now. Like maybe a 1 star. I don't know. The reason why is because I liked the beginning so much. Like I really enjoyed the beginning. Like the atmosphere was really good. I was like, ooh. But then I was just like, I don't know. I really don't like the end. And like this, maybe even the second half. Like I said, I didn't have the physical book. Yeah. So I don't know where exactly it was. I didn't really check in with the
chat. And I feel like with thrillers, a lot does hinge on the ending.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if the ending was better, I could have possibly given it 4, honestly.
Right.
But because the ending was the way.
Pacing issues if the ending is like explosive thing, especially with thrillers. Like if I don't see the twist coming or something, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. And I think that if I would have read this like when I was first starting to get into thrillers, I would have liked it way more.
It's a great beginner, dip your toes into the genre. Yeah. Don't think too hard.
Part of me almost thinks that like, I lost my train of thought. Shoot, what was I going to say when that happens? Yeah, I don't know. Oh, part of me thinks it's just my fault that I didn't enjoy it, or not really my fault, but just like
your expectations were a little bit different going into it, maybe.
And I thought it was going to be way darker because that's always my hope with thrillers. And and so
I get that.
I'm not strange. I know there's lots of people like this, but I'm like, I want it to be messed up. Like it doesn't even have to be that messed up, but just a little messed up. And
this was pretty
a little basic. Yeah, I was expecting a little more grit.
Like once we talk about spoilers, it's like, oh, like that is so like that could just easily happen to anyone. Like not all of it, but like what was done. Like I don't know. It just seemed really so anyway, I'll probably just do a 2 because a 1 is like really bad. Like usually if I give a book a 1,
I give 1s to books that I don't like. So
maybe I'll just say 1.5.
I say 1s for books because I thought too, I was like, is this a 1? But I like to save 1 stars for books that I could like rant about, like books I hated. And I didn't hate this book.
Okay.
I just was frustrated by it. So I'm like, there were things that I like, there were parts where I was like, oh, okay. So so I gave it 2 because I was like, I don't hate it. I'm just annoyed.
Yeah. I think I'm the same way. I think it's 2. I think 1s are, I'm trying to think of like what I've even given a 1. I've got to look at my Goodreads, like barely any books in my life, like ever I've gotten like a 1. Cause usually I'll just DNF, and I won't like get to the point of being like, this is a 1 star. I'm mad. Like, I realized I actually want to ask this in the non-spoilers and then we'll switch over. Do you have any books that you would recommend to people if they liked this book, if they want a similar book?
Obviously, The Talented Mr. Ripley, the movie. I can't recommend the book. I haven't read it. But there's actually another book that is also tied with like that the Talented Mr. Ripley vibe. It's it's an older book. I think it came out maybe 2017. I'm not sure. I haven't read it, but since I love The Talented Mr. Ripley, this has kind of been on my radar. It's called The Destroyers by Christopher Bollen, Bollen. And it's a suspenseful psychological thriller for like modern day Talented Mr. Ripley. And it reunites two childhood best friends. And one is kind of like tracking down the other because of some success that they've had. And then one goes missing.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
So that was The Destroyers by Christopher Bollen.
I'll have to look that up and see if I even recognize the cover or anything.
Yeah, I'll look it up for you.
Okay.
I'll show you.
I was looking up like books, like thriller books that would be similar, like literally right before the live show, because I haven't read as many. I've read a fair few, but like not enough to have like, oh, if you liked this, you'll like this kind of thing. So I was like really struggling with one because I'm like, trying to think of maybe like where there's a manuscript involved or where there's like a rich heiress kind of thing. And I literally came up with like nothing. So I was waiting for you guys to recommend some and be like, sure, yeah, let's see.
No, you're good. Sometimes I have no idea. For this one, I think We Were Never Here by Andrea Bartz kind of has a similar vibe because it has sort of like a toxic friendship kind of unreliable situation in there. I read it a long time ago, and again, I didn't love it, but it was I wish I could pull it up. I'm like literally looking at it on my screen right now.
So but here's one cover, The Destroyers.
Okay.
And then here's another cover.
I don't recognize either.
Yeah. So
that second one definitely like cover to cover.
Yeah, the blues. With,
Right. I'm going to pull up on my phone We Were Never Here. You all probably will recognize it because I think it was a Book of the Month book.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but I think it's about two girls going on vacation. Something happens. They have to keep it a secret. And then you're going back to kind of like reality. And then one of them's like, maybe I don't trust my friend. Like, is she lying to me? All that kind of stuff. So it has sort of a similar vibe in that way. And then also like the tropical vacation. I'm looking here. I think they go on a trip to Chile. So it has like a vacation vibe, and in this it has two settings that feel vacationy. It's like the Northern Lights, and then also
Greece.
Greece. Yeah. So, oh, sorry, I missed a comment, but I think that was the one that kind of reminded me the most of this book that I could think of, just like vibes wise. I'm glad I didn't buy the book. I was going to binge it in 48 hours because I forgot this was the pick.
Oh, no.
Oh, man, my library didn't have it, not even on Libby. I mean, if it sounds interesting, definitely try it. But unfortunately, it wasn't my favorite.
Another book I was going to recommend just for the Greek island vibes. This book is about a bachelorette trip that takes place in the Greek island and it ends in murder. It's called One of the Girls by Lucy Clark, and it also has like that blue cover. So
I think I have it literally right here. I need to read it.
Okay, so it's not the exact same, so maybe you'll like that one more.
And I also have no idea, but I haven't read this one either.
Yes.
Have you read this one?
No, I haven't. It breaks the fourth wall, and I don't like that.
Oh, okay. I've liked his other stuff, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure they're in Greece.
Yeah, I got an arc of it, and then I was like, ooh, it breaks the fourth wall.
That is weird. I'll have to try those out. The other, I guess I could maybe recommend Rachel Hawkins, like Reckless Girls. I loved Reckless Girls. It takes place on an island. But that one is way more like drama filled, kind of juicy, like the whole time, like ridiculous.
Yeah, but lots of secrets and
very popcorn. But like, I really liked that one. So, I'm staying for the spoilers. I need reason not to read it. Well, hey, perfect timing. I think we're going to switch over into the spoiler section. So if you are here and don't want it spoiled, then this is your chance to leave. If not, oops, last sprint. I did not look at that. We're not sprinting. Where's my spoiler section? I swear my, here it is. My tab moved. Okay. That's so funny. We're not sprinting. Strange sprint.
We're sprinting through this discussion. Let's go.
Okay, so we haven't been able to even talk about all the characters, really.
Right.
It's almost like 2 books. So there's the manuscript, and you have that couple, and I wrote their names. So they're Tomeo, I think is how you pronounce it, and then Amelia, which is spelled different than I thought it was, and that's actually Claudia, who is actually the sister of Noah, who was the boy that was killed.
Yeah. How?
So what did you all think? Let's just talk about like the big like reveal, the fact that well, there's a couple reveals in this, I should say, but the fact that this was all about this boy and she let her best friend murder him because I don't know, I'm like, what?
That's the question. Why?
Yeah. I don't think I'd ever tell my bestie, like, hey, it's cool. You can just take him out. Like, no, it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that just really was like, what?
And it was the way that came out, like, because Abby kept saying, like, I can't tell him the truth, or I can't tell him the real secret that we were actually seeing each other, whatever it was.
That's the secret. It was like really?
Yeah, it was like, obviously that's what's gonna happen. Like, obviously that's what's so, like, to me, that whole part where it was like, yeah, we were seeing each other and he wasn't like harming me or anything like that. Like, I was like,
that's horrible.
And I just like could have seen that coming. But yeah, the fact that then she was like, oh yeah, Gia was protecting me, and just totally like let that narrative go.
Yeah.
Like, Gia was rich, so she could have easily gotten out of that little legal issue, like by saying, oh, I thought he was like assaulting my friend or whatever, which did she really, or did she not?
I don't think she did. That's the thing. The ending is so open-ended. It's like, what do you all, just so many questions. Like, what do you all think? Do you think she knew? I feel like she knew. I feel like
she knew.
I think she probably knew.
That she was just jealous and murdered him.
Yeah. I don't mind ambiguous endings in thrillers or in horror books and stuff like that. Sometimes it like leaves you with a really eerie feeling.
Yes.
But this ambiguous ending specifically was so frustrating because you got nothing.
Yeah.
No answers. It was
and also mixed, so you have the unreliable narrator and you have an ambiguous ending. So you don't know what was true or what was false to begin with.
Right.
And then you don't know what happened at the end. So you're like, how am I supposed to feel?
I think the goal was just to like divide readers and like be convinced in their stance, which can work.
Right.
With Verity is a great example, but like
I was just thinking of that with like the ambiguous ending. Like I didn't with Verity, I was kind of like, that was chilling. That's a chilling ambiguous ending. But like with this one, I was like, you couldn't have at least tied up some of the like answers for us. Like,
there's another book I'm thinking of that has an ambiguous ending, but I don't want to say it has an ambiguous ending because I don't want to spoil it. But not that it spoils it, but you know, I don't want to say it has an ambiguous ending. But definitely, it makes it tough. There's some that are good, like Verity. You know, you have your Team Jacob and Team Edward. It's like you have your sides that you pick. But with this one, I feel like if you're thinking that everything that was written was like face value, or if you're thinking that it was all kind of made up, either one kind of leaves me unsatisfied because and then other things need to be cleared up along the way.
I feel like there was so many things. Like, you could think she knew about Noah, but then what do you think about her husband? Like, was he actually abusive? Was this couple like that she made up? Were they real? Were they not? Like, there were so many things that could have been. You could, so you could be on team she knew about Noah, but not team she was lying about this and this. Like, I just need something, some answers to be satisfied.
I know, and I also think I don't like con man stories. I've realized like that. Like, I tried to read First Lie Wins and I couldn't.
I do like con people stories. But also I will say, I wanted to go back to what I was saying about The Talented Mr. Ripley. So while it doesn't have an ambiguous ending like this, it did kind of feel along the same vibes.
Mm.
So it doesn't have an ambiguous ending, I don't think. Now that you're both going to go watch the movie, you're going to report back to me and let me know if you thought it was ambiguous. And everybody in the comments, if you have not seen that movie, go watch it. But it felt like that's what she was trying to do, but
Okay.
she didn't succeed with it,
That's
the way that it succeeded in the movie. So I think that's what she was going for. But I was like, didn't quite hit the mark. Again, it could be a debut thing. Like she's just getting her footing and stuff. And you take something like that popular and try to redo it, it's a little harder.
I feel like also it could have been setting up a sequel, which I don't think it actually was, but it in a way that a sequel could happen and answer things. But I was like, I don't like sequels and thrillers.
Yeah, I won't read it.
Read it. But is it like gonna open like the next book? Like it's from the guy's perspective and reveals that like he wasn't that, what's his name even? Garrett, I think.
Yeah.
From Garrett's perspective. And all of a sudden it's gonna be like, oh my gosh, like it was her the whole time, and like he was abusive and like all this stuff. Like, I don't know.
I also thought back to the pacing that you've been mentioning, Hannah. Are you talking about how it was pretty like, it wasn't like fast paced, but it was like a good medium pace, like you're reading it along. And then at the end, it just kind of, all these things are happening and happening and happening. Yeah. And it just totally switched pacing wise. At that end, it actually got more thrilling at the end than the whole other book. The whole other part was like suspense. But it was pretty normal. You could manage things, but then at the end, everything just, you didn't know what to believe, what's going on. All these reveals are happening. This person is really this person connected to this person. And then my husband's abusive, and I'm not even at the house, and I'm chained up at some castle that we've been talking about. Like
for me, the very like the first like 50 to 60% was just like, I was just kind of, it was just happening. Like I wasn't really enjoying it, but I wasn't like, oh, I'm not interested, I want a DNF. Like I was just like, I was listening to it while I was doing tasks, so it was just the thing, And then I think the book for me, the strongest point was between like the 60 and 70% mark, because they had found out, like they finally found the manuscript and found out that Gia was missing. And then we are getting to like the climax of Gia's manuscript with all this like stuff coming about these con men and stuff, like realizing these strangers she has in her house are all working with her husband to swindle her. And so I was like, this is where it's going to get good. The second half is going to hit. Yeah. And then it started to go back down for me because I was like,
yeah, no, I agree. I feel like it could have been so much juicier.
Yeah.
And violent.
I could have had this explosive ending with like all this stuff happening, and now it's like, did anything even happen?
Yeah, and then the epilogue was just like, okay, happily ever after, I guess. But
absolutely not.
I was listening to the audiobook, and all of a sudden it was like epilogue, Abby, or whatever it said, and I was like, what the hell? Like epilogue? What do you mean epilogue? Like
I know.
They're just like frolicking about France, and she smells Gia's perfume, and it's just like, I was just at that point.
That part is very talented, Mr. Ripley.
Is it?
What if I don't like talented Mr. Ripley?
I still want you to tell me, and I still want you to watch it because I think you will like it.
It looks like fun. Like,
it's go into it for a fun time.
Yeah, a fun time. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I feel like I should watch it. Like it's a classic, kind of.
Yeah.
I feel. Also, I don't know if I read this, but if it breaks the fourth wall in a book, it's like, it is very strange. I don't know if I read many that do that. Have I even read any?
Well, one of the more popular is, what's the Lemony Snicket series, the series of unfortunate events.
Oh,
so I've never read that either, but everybody's like, you didn't like the Lemony. I'm like, no, I've never read it.
It does break the fourth wall. It literally talks to the reader.
Interesting. Did you read them?
I read them like as an adult. Like I didn't finish the whole series, but I was like, it was like a thing when I was a kid, and I just had never
one that
read
does
them.
That is that I think, because I didn't read it because I heard it broke the fourth wall, was that I've killed everyone in my family. The Benjamin, you know which one? It has like a blue cover.
Wait, that sounds. Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like someone in my family, everyone in my family has
I
killed
know what
someone.
you're saying. Yes, it has a typewriter. Everyone in my family has killed someone. Yes, that
Yes.
breaks the fourth wall.
Yes, I heard that both of them do, because I think the second book is out as well.
Yeah.
And then those are the only ones I can think of off the top of my head, because I kind of I avoid them.
I don't think I would be. Well, I'm still going to try The Fury because I do like that author's previous books, but I'm really nervous that I'm going to be like really not a fan, because that's what's happening to me lately.
But I'm exactly like this person where they're like, me, them, who, what's going on?
It's like a fantasy world. You don't want to bring me there. Like,
it's like, I like second person perspective when, like in You by Caroline Kepnes,
right,
I like that.
About a character,
it's
not about you specifically.
But when I've heard that they are like, I know that was a lot that you just took in. Let me go ahead and explain, like summarize.
Absolutely not.
Exactly. No, thank you. So good luck with The Fury.
I can't remember which thriller book it is. I think it's The Wife Upstairs. It's gotta be, because it's one specific, like, breaking the fourth wall, and it's what she does in Jane Eyre. If you've ever read Jane Eyre, she says, like, in Reader, I married him, and then in a lot of people will go, and Reader, I whatevered him. Like, I've seen that done more than one time, but specifically in The Wife Upstairs, because it's kind of a Jane Eyre thriller retelling. Immediately I was like, I'm docking a star just for that. I hated that so much.
You know what?
You're like, that felt good. That felt good.
This is a little different than breaking the fourth wall. But when they say in books, when it's like, little did they know their night was about to
see, absolutely not.
I get actually like
I like it when I don't like it when they specifically say, like, but I kind of like when they hint that, like, something bad is about to happen next, or it's like, or it says, like,
I just don't
and
like
then what followed happened or something like that, because I'm like, what happened next? So I like that.
I don't think I even like that, to be honest.
Yeah, I like that.
I just want to, like, be in the moment. Like, don't talk about tomorrow. Like, they're at a bonfire right now. We don't need to know about the killer. You know, like, it's creepier. That is so funny. Oh, I'm watching the TV show Ripley on Netflix. Do you know about this?
No, I just straight up looked it up. I'm like, pause everything.
I know. I was like, what is this?
It's a limited series. It just came out this year. It's in black and white. There's 8 episodes. I'm going to have to check it out. But
you'll have to tell us if we need to watch that.
It says, in this psychological thriller series, a con artist assumes the identity of a wealthy man. Interesting. So it sounds very much like The Talented Mr. Ripley.
Interesting. Okay. Well, thanks for letting us know, Cindy.
Yeah, thanks.
I would have never known.
Either.
Yeah, sometimes they make little series here and there, and I don't hear about them because there's so many streaming platforms.
Yeah.
Where are they all? Like, I don't know. I don't have all of them. So I'm trying to think about some things I was thinking while reading the manuscript. I think I was actually really interested in her friend that she was kind of making, Amelia.
Yeah.
I wanted more about the friend. And then, like, you find out she's a con artist. But, like, is she? You know, and real? Do you think she was like?
So who was made up? That's what I feel like. I still don't remember. Maybe I did when I read it, you know, but like, I don't know who was made up and who was real. Like,
I think they specifically said that
worker person,
I can't remember that she flirted with a lot.
Right.
Yeah. I think his name started with a D.
Yeah, but he was real. It just wasn't.
Or Demetrius.
She kind of built up his character in the manuscript to be somebody else. But he was like, he was a real person, but that she based him on.
And they said that Amelia was working with Garrett specifically.
Yeah.
To swindle, like, rich people. So like,
that was
like Claudia, like, she had like worked her way up apparently in the con artist world so that she could
the con artist corporate ladder.
And like, that's another thing. If Gia killed her brother, why is she like And in the end, it was like fine with her.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because like, okay,
I'm
if
like,
it was
listen,
Abby's fault, why wouldn't you
Yeah.
why wouldn't you want to get back at both of them?
Wait, you know what I just
Abby like smear campaigned her brother basically by saying
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, he was R-wording me.
Mhm.
And Gia literally is the one who murdered him. So like, wouldn't you want to take your revenge out on both of them instead of being like,
Yeah.
you know what, Gia, you actually did kill my brother, but we're okay.
I'm also confused because didn't Abby say she actually sent to Amelia the manuscript at the end?
She sent her the note.
Like the note from, or not, sorry, not the manuscript, but the note in the book.
Yeah.
So
she sent her that.
He must be real, right?
But like,
But was she the person in the?
Then why wouldn't Abby have been like, this is, it was just, there's just so many questions that were, it was like so many threads were left untethered.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when I looked up the synopsis and was like, ooh, I'll look at a couple reviews, like non-spoiler, and somebody was like, the end tells you nothing. I was like, fabulous. Like,
yeah.
Great.
Because there was like no satisfaction to that ending.
And I feel like the red herrings were a little bit too heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Like they kept pointing out that like castle or those buildings where she ended up being locked up at the end or whatever happened there. Like they kept talking about that place, I was like, something is definitely gonna happen here.
Yeah.
And the well.
You know, the well. I actually loved that because I was like, we know there's a body. We know it's in the well.
They never like dug it up.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was like, something is gonna happen here. Like there were just
And then I would like forget about the well. And then they would mention the well again. And I'd be like, the well, there's
go to the well.
Dig it up. Also her mother, like remember how the mother was like, Barrett is like not a good guy. And then we never got anything wrapped up with the mother.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It really frustrated me. I was like, what the heck?
That had a real conclusion was the romance between Abby and Ben.
It's a thriller. Like we don't
need exactly. We don't need that in this book. But again,
that's why I was like,
let's give her some grace. It's a debut. The next book is going to be better.
That I had suspected Gia of like her manuscript being mostly like a ploy to get Abby somehow, like get back at her because she knew about her and Noah and whatever. And I was like, Ben has to be involved somehow. He's like, because he's jealous, because he's always been in love with her. And like, I'm like, he's got to be like shady somehow. And just like, no, okay, I guess he's perfect. Like,
he's a good guy.
Yeah. What?
Yeah. It's very
out G is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just like, let me change my mind and give it 1.
I'm like trying not to give it a 1. I don't know. I just think I would have DNF'd it if it wasn't for a book club. So I wouldn't have even like gotten to the point of rating it. So it's kind of like, I don't know. Like, is it a 1? But I don't.
Yeah.
I liked, like I keep saying, I really like the vibe of the manuscript in the beginning. So I feel like what you said, Gwen, maybe in her next book, she'll take one of the tones and stick with it, and then it'll work.
Because I think it could have just been the manuscript.
Yeah.
We did not need Abby's point. We didn't need them going to Sweden to see the Northern Lights.
Right.
That was pointless. We didn't need the threatening notes. We didn't need any of that. If we would have just had Gia's manuscript and flashbacks to their childhood.
Flashbacks would have been good.
Flashbacks to the childhood. So this is the part of the discussion where I like to say, here are my notes to the author. You know, I mean, but flashbacks to the friendship and what happened in their past and gotten a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
And then we could have had like her coming directly to Greece and then all that stuff happened. But then if it would have laid out the ending a little bit more clear and concise and maybe left out the romance, maybe mentioned the past romance, like that they had a thing for each other, you know, in the past, but it didn't necessarily have the happily ever after in the end.
Right.
I did like the epilogue because that was like a nod back to the talents of Mr. Ripley. So I liked that, but I think that would have been stronger. I don't think we needed that other POV. It wasn't even in there. It wasn't balanced. Like maybe it had 5 sections and the other one had 15 sections. So it didn't, you know, make sense anyway. So
yeah. I agree. I'm glad that you liked a lot of it though.
Yeah. And I think that's because of the talented Mr. Ripley. So
it makes a lot of sense. Like sometimes I feel like that happens to me where it's like a book reminds me of something. So I end up liking it more than maybe I would if that wasn't there,
Right.
Yeah.
or just different opinions. Like sometimes I feel like I just have like a random, especially with horror books, I feel like I end up liking sometimes books that people are like, sucks. And
You're
I'm
like,
like,
it was fun.
yeah. So, well, thank you so much for being here, both of you, and discussing
Yeah.
people in the comments who were participating and everybody watching. I wanted to ask, is there anything else you all want to add to it? Or do you feel like you've wrapped up all your thoughts?
The cover slays.
Yeah,
Yes.
the cover slays.
100%.
You know, take it or leave it.
Yeah, it's so pretty.
Yeah. I need more blue this color.
Yeah, it says everyone has a story, but not everyone's story is true. Okay, so was it all a lie?
Yeah.
Like, like
That is a good.
Yeah. There were some things about it that were like intriguing though.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, it wasn't
I agree.
painful the whole, like there were some times where I was like, what if it's this? What if it's this? It just was frustrating when like it was nothing.
Yeah.
I agree.
So Sav said she's not going to read anything else by the author.
So sorry, Miss whatever.
Miss Wood.
Miss
What
Wood. So sorry.
And what about you, Hannah? Would you, if the synopsis intrigued you?
If it was a really good like tagline, because like I think part of why I also wasn't enjoying the beginning was because I knew I read the synopsis and it spoiled so much, like up to like the 50% mark at least.
Yeah.
So I was like, when are we gonna get to the meat of this story kind of thing?
That's why I think liking it, because I didn't remember the synopsis.
Yeah. So I think like if I read like a tagline of it and I hear some people like giving it really good reviews, I would consider picking it up. I'm not going to be running to the stores to get her next book, though.
Right. You're not pre-ordering.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I am. I'll see what, the synopsis intrigues me. If it's something similar, like if she kind of goes with this vibe of the unreliable narrator, the book within a book thing or things like that, or like anything about a writer, because I usually don't like that either. I probably will skip it, but if it's something else entirely, I'll give it a shot.
If she wrote another like rich person drama thriller, I would be intrigued, because that was like my favorite part about the book was like the rich person drama.
Yeah. I feel like she would have been good at writing like one of those books where there's a bunch of characters, they're at a reunion, they're on an island.
Oh yeah.
Like I feel like that would have, because that lends itself to like rich people drama. They're like on a yacht or something. Like, I don't know. I would have liked that maybe a little more.
Yeah.
Before we go, I wanted to show the October pick, which I'm so sorry. The background's it's not picking it up, but The House on Moon Creek Avenue. This is by E. Reyes, and he does a lot of like Halloween-y kind of books. Actually, all of his books are Halloween centered. However, one of them is like about all the other holidays. So he does have one different one. But this one, I didn't read much of the synopsis because but I know it involves a paranormal investigation crew, and it is on Kindle Unlimited. And my co-hosts next month are Ola Books and Wicked Reading. So here's I hope to see everybody there and chat and have a horror book to talk about for Halloween.
Yay, that's going to be fun.
Yes. So thank you all so much for being here. And I am going to end the live. Bye.
All right, bye.